want to thank everyone for coming out for signing day. We will start with some opening comments from Coach, and then we can get to questions.
Well, today's certainly a big day for not only our program, but probably most importantly for the kids that signed. And I think, as they go through this process, this is one of those timeline decisions, and we couldn't be more confident about this group and the fit they are with Wisconsin. And that's when you feel really good about it. And it's a long process, for the prospective student athletes that now we can call Badgers and part of our football family, and for coaches and everyone that a lot of these relationships you start, it's over a 2.5 year span. So that way it's an exciting day, and I do feel really good about probably the term that's used too much right now in recruiting, but I think it's really real, and that's the fit. And I think this group fits this place and fits our team, and that's where it's exciting. And I think it's made up of certainly all different types of guys and covers all the different position groups, but I think they're really a good group that saw and values the same things that we value in this program, and I think we got a group that can contribute. And how that happens and how fast each kid develops differently, but really every one of these we're excited about having us join our team, and I think therefore we got a chance to be better because of this group. AP.
Jeff.
Well, you mentioned the position groups, and if you look at the offensive line, there's 4 of them, all from in-state. Once these kids get in and on campus, will your numbers in the offensive line, especially scholarship guys, will they be at a level that you want, or are you still a little off there?
Yeah, I think we'll be closer with that. And really the two groups, if you look at today's signing, if you have them on a sheet, wide receiver and O-line were kind of our biggest groups, and I think that is an area that we were low. And yet I don't think you ever get to each position. We've got kind of what's the ideal number we want to have, and you try to place out. And I think, too, that just because you have those numbers, it still you have to have the right prospects, and so we were fortunate in that regard that, we had that many linemen in state, particularly that we thought were really good players, and the same thing, with the receiver position. We weren't going to just sign, 3 receivers or 4 just to get the numbers up. They have to be the right guys, and yet I think that we're able to accomplish a little bit of balancing out some of the formation numbers, position group numbers, not formation, position group numbers, and yet getting, I do think, a really good group that fits this place.
Well, there's not a lot of guys that get recruited off Long Island, but what gave you the confidence that Jack Cohn could be somebody for you in this class?
Yeah, I think that, the first, really with all the recruits, and Jack's certainly in this, that the football is what starts the process, right? We get a chance to look at a lot of film and liked what we saw with Jack. And then when you go out and you start to get to meet him, and there's an interest in Wisconsin, and the more you find out, the more excited you get about him. But I think, certainly the film is what started it, and don't really care if it's a place that's had a lot or hasn't had many. You want to go find the right group, and I feel really confident about Jack being a great fit, and it's good to have him here now. I think this is the most I've ever been associated with, where we've got 7 from a class that are here already on campus, and so it's but I think that there's been some good quarterbacks come out of Long Island, and I think, but you just go and you look everywhere, and Sayville had a guy that was a good fit for us.
Jeff.
Well, you mentioned the number of early enrollees, and I think back, Joel enrolled early, eventually got a starting job as a redshirt freshman. Alex, another one. Just for the quarterback position itself, how important is it for those guys to get in early, whether it's to absorb the playbook, to get comfortable with the system, just to get that extra 15 practices to get them that head start?
I think I'll answer that first. The early enrollment, I think it's really specific to an individual. I think that if, we've got a couple guys that, we signed in this class. We've had them in classes before where, they're playing basketball and they're on good teams, and that's good. Just for the development of a player. And yet I think that, there's a group that I used to think in my mind that if you were just going to be one of those seniors that second semester, you're going to have senioritis the whole year and go get something out of it. And really there's been a lot of quarterbacks that have done it. Kurt Phillips was that way. Budmeyer was the same. I think almost all of them did. You have another semester where you're around and you're learning, and for Jack, I think it fit him. It was the right thing for him to do, and absolutely, you get to spend time at maybe a slower pace in teaching him the offense, and he'll get the opportunity to, like you said, get the 15 practices. But I also think that the group that comes and joins us in the summer, there's enough time to get them ready as well. But I think it's really personal choice. And yeah, I do think it's really good for Jack, and I'm glad he's here right now.
Jason.
Coach, I know you've said in the past that you're in favor of an early signing period, and it's looking like the December one might happen. If that does, what kind of changes for you guys as coaches and how you recruit and kind of the calendar for you guys? How does that change things for you?
Well, don't really know how it's going to change. You try to think it through. I think the original intent of it was, and you could really use probably this past year for us as a pretty good example. Scott Nelson committed in January, and other than that, the bulk of the kids that signed today were committed. And so I think that's where you could say if nothing changed, that group then has their middle of December signing, right? How that impacts what else is going on. I mean, certainly those 2 weeks that you have in December, this past year, thankfully we had a week that we were preparing for a game instead of out on the road. I don't know how it will affect exactly. You try to get ahead of it and try to manage it. I think that one thought we had was you're going to have those first 2 weekends for official visits and not just one like we had this past year. But I don't know exactly. But I think it's a good rule. I think it's good for the prospective student athletes, and I think it's good for the programs, and it declares, if you got a kid that's truly committed, he's going to sign. And I think it kind of cleans up. If you've got an offer out and you truly have an offer to them, then it'll hold people to what their word is. So I think it's good.
Ryan, back.
Coach, you have a couple local kids in Caden Lyles and Jake Ferguson. What did you see on their tape that makes them stand out in your mind?
Well, I think it's kind of what you said in the question. Like when you watch the tape, they stand out. Whether it's, I've had a chance to watch Jake, a few times recently just playing basketball. And, he came to our camp. And Caden, was at our camp, and you see him. But the film, they stand out. Like they're different. And then when you get to know them as people, you feel like this is a good fit. And so I think those are two guys in this class that I think are really good football players and really good fits here. And that's why it's guys like them. That's why we're excited. I think he's a really good athlete. And for a big guy, he's got great body control and he's explosive. And the guy that's played, multiple sports. So I think when he gets a chance to focus in on football, there'll be even that much more growth. And Caden's, a powerful, aggressive, athletic, big guy. You know, those are good starting points. I think they both love to compete and love the game. So that's why we get excited.
Tom.
Is Danny Vanderboom a quarterback? Is that what you're recruiting him as and hope to play him at?
Yeah, you know, with Danny, the more that you kind of kept watching him, and he's one of the few that there's a 3-sport athlete that's, you know, their football team, you know, one state, and then basketball teams, I think they're ranked second. I think they just got beat last night by the number 1 ranked, and a baseball player. Like, I think he's a really good athlete, and I think, you know, when you watch his tape and his willingness to come join us, you know, I think he's got some really good skills as a quarterback, and yet when he goes from 3 sports to 1, I think that it'll be interesting to see how he grows, you know, with that. But I think he's absolutely a quarterback.
Going back to Jeff's question about the numbers in the O-line, you were a little short on numbers at quarterback, were you not, as well? Do you like having 2 quarterbacks in this class?
That was a big part of it because of, you know, you try to balance it out. And you got to be careful of adding too much at one time, but it's good. You know, like this spring again, you know, really the guys that are here, you know, Alex and Correa and Jack, they'll get a lot of reps, and then you add Danny to it. It's there's still plenty of reps to be had, and so that part has been good.
Justin Paul, the window of opportunity is obviously shorter for a junior college guy like Andrew Van Ginkel. Do you look at him as a guy who can come in at outside linebacker maybe and contribute immediately, especially knowing that TJ and Vince are gone now?
Yeah, you're right about it is a, you know, shorter, smaller window, right? And yet they have some experiences that should help them transition maybe a little bit faster than some of the freshmen coming in. And we thought when we were recruiting Andrew that here's a guy that really liked what he did on film and could be a guy that could compete for and certainly put himself in position to earn the right for playing time. So absolutely.
JP.
Coach, is it a hard sell to get guys to walk on, especially ones that maybe have interest elsewhere? Obviously, there's the tradition here of it, so that's why I'm curious. Is it hard to convince guys to walk on?
I think it's, you know, everything in this recruiting is so individualistic. And so you know, a lot of these guys are giving up something, and so is it hard? I don't know if it's hard or easy. You know, you're just trying to find the right guys, and I think it does help that there's a proven track record of players that have been able to, they know they're going to get an opportunity, and they know that if they do well with that opportunity, things will work out for them, you know, even on the scholarship end of it. And I think that, you know, there's a proven track record, and it's been built on a number of years, and yet it's still really current that if you will get opportunity, and I think that helps draw to it, and yet I think it's still really very much unique to the individual. And I think it's, you know, this group of guys is a great example. We're excited about that. We feel like we're getting some really good football players and guys that fit Wisconsin and guys that are excited about the opportunity. You know, we also have limited number of spots, and so they're getting that opportunity, and I think that they know that they'll get a more than a fair chance. And so it's is it easy? Is it hard? I don't know. It's what we do and how we do it, and you're really appreciative of the guys that do want to come join us.
Tom.
Do you think Cone is pretty advanced as a quarterback, especially playing in a spread system? Where do you think he stands?
I think coming out, you know, of high school, I think he's got a good foundation, you know, and I think that it's our job, you know, especially now that we're off the road, he's getting settled into school and the rhythm of it to start meeting and figure out where he's at. And there's no doubt in my mind that he's got a good foundation and he'll get there. He's eager to learn. He's we've had a number of conversations even through the recruiting, and he's a guy that wants to learn it, put the time in. And so I feel good where he's at right now, and yet I think when we get to spend some time and figure it out, it'll help gauge it. I don't know if I give a great answer right now, but I like where he's at, and now we get to go do that, and that's the fun part about him being here now is you can go at a pace he can kind of drive the pace with it. And he'll get there, I don't question that. I think every quarterback will get there.
Coach, how much do you pay attention to what other coaches and schools in the Big Ten are doing? Not as far as necessarily rankings, but PJ Flex at Minnesota now. Obviously, Urban Meyer has stepped things up. Jim Harbaugh, I think, jumped in a pool with one of his kids. Just how much do you pay attention to what others are doing around you?
Not a lot. I think you're always trying to figure out what's going on. And, we watch this time of the year, we'll watch other offenses, other defenses. You're trying to improve, you're trying to get better. But those types of things, no, don't spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. Plus, he jumped in the pool after he committed. Well, you guys showed me yesterday.
Aaron Vopel's a large young man. Do you project him being a defensive end or moving in the interior?
We do project him at defense. You do feel good that he is a big, athletic kid. And he's gotten bigger, we were around him a lot this summer, and he's a guy that committed early, came to spring practices, and yet this winter when I went back up to his house and saw him, he looked like he'd put on some weight and looked like good weight. And yet I think absolutely, he's one that you're going to start on defense and then kind of see where it goes. He could do a number. That's what I think. There's a lot of guys in this class that could be a number of different things. And to me, that's a good quality.
Anything else for Coach? All right.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.